I really want to be transparent about numbers because I think that there is a big disconnect with numbers out there and analytics and what people say that they earn or they don't earn, or how much they bring in and how profitable they actually are. Because I think that there's a lot of lack of transparency when it comes to numbers. So hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Female Empowered. I'm your host, Krista Gurka. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you can see my beautiful kind of little thing that I made for my mic. So I'm hoping this actually works. I'm actually recording this podcast. I'm on vacation. Not really on vacation. Yeah, I am on vacation. I'm in Telluride, Colorado with my son who's on spring break. And I am doing one of my CEO retreats where I'm basically creating a bunch of content for our coaching programs. I'm redoing some of our training modules. I'm recording podcasts and recording content for our Pilates in the Grove on demand while my son snowboards most of the day. So it's beautiful right now. I am looking outside at the slopes and at the mountains. It's a beautiful, beautiful day here in Colorado. So what I am going to go over today is I'm going to be going over really like our quarterly review that I do with my company every quarter, and what we do with our businesses in our Beyond the Movement Inner Circle program that's our high touch mentorship with female entrepreneurs. And so we will be reviewing their quarterly numbers any day now. So at the time of this recording, we are actually a few weeks away from really finishing out the full quarter. But what I wanted to do was come and I really want to be transparent about numbers because I think that there is a big disconnect with numbers out there and analytics and what people say that they earn or they don't earn, or how much they bring in and how profitable they actually are. Because I think that there's a lot of lack of transparency when it comes to numbers. So I am going to break down our quarterly numbers. And like I said, we're going to be a little bit shy of this just because there are almost 2 more weeks left in the month, but it'll be as accurate as possible. So when we talk about the quarter, we're talking about January 1st till March. How many days are in March? 30th, right? I think, or there are 30 days and 31. I'm not sure. What is that? 30 days have September, April, June, and November. So March has 31 days. So till March 31st. So when I look at Pilates in the Grove's numbers, what we track on our scorecard are a few different things. We like to track a marketing metric, which is how many new clients are we getting in the door. We like to track a sales metric, which is how many new client conversion. So how many new clients in the door and how many new clients convert to returning clients. We like to track a operations metric, which is our active client list and our retention, how many people continue to come back, right? So it tells us whether our product is actually good or not. And we like to track utilization. That's a capacity metric. And then we also track gross margin, net margin, which really tells you basically like whether or not you're making money. It's a financial metric. So when we look at our active client list, we separate everything out between locations. All right. So we can see if one location is really carrying the other locations or which location's doing better. And we try to really understand this and look at like the story behind the numbers. So what's actually happening here? So from the beginning of January, we had a total of 782 clients gross amongst all locations. Our one location had 457. And another location had 325. As we transitioned all the way through, at the time of this recording, we are up to 525 clients at our larger location and 343 clients at our smaller location. So we have been able to grow from 782 active clients. Those are people that are coming into the business regularly, to 868 active clients. Excuse me. All right. So now when we look at our first visits, that's the first time someone's ever been in either location. This kind of like fluctuates. We really see, if I put it on a graph, we would see kind of like ups and downs and ups and downs. So I'll read you from the beginning of January. One week we had 20 new clients. Next week we had 9. Then we went back up to 20, we had 23, then down to 9, 14, 20, 21. So if I look over an average of the whole first quarter, we're averaging about 20 new visits a week. And what we like to see is that each location is getting kind of an equal amount. So 10 new visits in each studio. All right. Then what we look at is, so when we look at this, what we're seeing is 10 new people are coming in the door. That means that our messaging and our marketing is working, right? So now when we look at our, let's see, our conversion rate. So if we're looking at new client conversion rate, right? So what we're looking at is how many new clients went from like a new client special or an introductory package or their first session and then purchased a longer term membership, right? So what we see is that our conversion rate at the beginning of the year was 12%, 13%. We don't like that. That's not a good number for us. That means that, 12% of people that come in the door stay. So if 100 people come in your door, 12 stay. We don't like that number. We want that number to be higher. Now, one of the reasons, so what do we talk about in our meeting? So if we're like, oh, what's the, one location only had a 6% conversion rate. So when we look back at what was happening in January, that our new client conversion rate was really low. If you think back to what was happening in January of 2022, this is when like the Omicron variant was kind of spreading like wildfire. And so when we look at that, there was a lot of people that just weren't comfortable buying packages because they didn't know what was going to happen. We had gone back to a mask mandate. We didn't know if we were going to be closing again. So I think that when we look at that, we're like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Maybe that's why that conversion rate was low. Once we look into February and into March, our conversion rate goes back up to about 20%, which is still lower than we like to see. Our goal is to have a 35% new customer conversion rate. And so one of the reasons right now that our conversion rate is a little lower is we have a capacity issue. And you'll see that when we talk about utilization. So what that means is new people are coming in the door, but we don't have space for them to buy longer term memberships. Our classes are relatively full. Our private one-on-one and our therapy schedules are full. We need to hire more people. Okay. So again, this is why it's really important to look over your numbers. So if we look at, we also track our on-demand subscription. So we have an on-demand platform, Pilates in the Grove on demand. And our goal is to hit 50 subscribers by the end of the year. And slowly we're getting to that. We've gone from 23 all the way up to 35. So, if we think that's the first quarter and we have 35 people, we gain, let's see, 10, 12, 13, 12 people each quarter. And there's 3 more quarters in the year. That's going to be 36 people. And we will surpass our goal of 50. So we know we're on track to hit that goal. So now if we look at utilization rate means how much of your total availability is utilized, is being used. So if you have 10 or 100 spaces available in a week and 90 are being used, you're at a 90% utilization rate. Our goal is to be 75% or higher. And when we start getting into the 80% utilization rate and higher is when we start to say we either need to add more classes, we need to hire, or we need to ask people if they're willing maybe to go from part-time to full-time. All right. So at the beginning of January, we were running at about a 79% utilization rate already. Each studio's, one studio was at a 78, the other studio was at a 79. We have since gone up 79, 82, 82, 83. We are now hitting an 80% utilization rate. What does that mean? That we're almost at 90% utilized, which means our schedule is full. Our classes are almost full. Our one-on-one sessions are almost full, which is one of the reasons why maybe our new client conversion rate is low, because we're getting 10 new people a week, 40 new people a month. If we're at almost a 90% utilization rate, what that's showing us is we just don't have space to put these new people in, right? So right now, when we do our quarterly strategy session, one of our initiatives is to increase capacity, because it's not a space capacity issue and it's not a time capacity issue. We have more availability. We just need the people to be able to service those sessions, if that makes sense. Okay. So we can possibly add more classes at night and maybe on a weekend. If we can get more teachers in the door, we can add more physical therapy sessions if we bring on another physical therapist, and we can add more one-on-one availability if we have another Pilates instructor. And that way we can increase our, so now maybe if we're still operating, we go down to a 70% utilization, but we have more capacity. Now we want to get back up to having an 80% utilization with our increased capacity. So if we go down now to revenue, okay, we set a revenue goal per month so that we're on track to hit our quarterly revenue goal. So at the beginning of January, and we track our revenue week over week. So we did 24,000 one week, we did 46,000. I'm sorry, let me backtrack. We add this cumulatively. So the first week of January, we were at 24,000. The second week of January, we're at 46,000. We went up to 71,000, 89,000. And at the end of January, we hit 130,000 and our goal was 125,000. So we were on track to hit our goal. If we move into February, we're continuing to increase week over week. At the end of February, we were at $218,000 and our goal was $220,000. So we were a little shy of our goal. All right. In March, we are over our goal again to date, right? So what we do is we just see, are we on track to keep hitting our quarterly goal, which will get us to the point that we're hitting our annual goal, or are we off track with that? Okay. So again, why we track our metrics. And we look, if we are like, oh, that week bad, what happened that week? Maybe this week, for example, might not be great revenue wise because it's spring break and people are traveling. All right. So once we look at our revenue goal, then we also look at our gross margin. Our gross margin or gross profit is you take all the money you brought in, so basically your sales, and then you see how much it cost you to provide those services. So it's basically cost of goods sold, or it's direct cost for the service. So if you charge $100 for a one-on-one session and you pay your instructor $50, you have a 50% gross margin, or a $50 gross margin. You give out $50, you keep $50. So in January, we basically had a 62% gross margin overall. We went up to 68 gross margin in February. And currently at this time in March, we're hitting a 71% gross margin, which is really where we want to be. Okay. We generally pay out to our instructors about 30% goes directly to them. And then another 10% or so goes to their basically like payroll taxes, taxes, health insurance, PTO, pay time off, because all of our staff, all of our instructors that are employed, full-time employees get pay time off, and they also get access to health benefits. So we're doing well. We're on to hit our goal to be at a 65 or greater percent gross margin. All right. Now, and then we look at net margin. So net margin is what you're actually left over with after you take all the other expenses, all your operational expenses, which means like your rent, your utilities, your software, taxes, any operational employee salaries, like if you have a manager or front desk staff that's not technically revenue generating or client facing, that's what you're left over with. And so at the beginning of January, we were actually at a negative 2% margin. And this is where I like to show business owners and other people, like we did at the end of, let's see, by the end of January, we had done $125,000 in revenue, but we were still at a negative 16% margin. So that means we were not profitable in the month of January. Now, why is that? Right now, that's still because we are still paying back debt from lines of credits and loans and grants that we had to take out because of COVID, because of our closures, because of the tremendous amount of money that we lost during that time, whether that be in revenue or also increased expenditure. So we had, as a studio, we had to put a lot of money into improving our HVAC unit, into extra cleaning, into new protocols, meetings I had with my attorneys and my accountants, people that helped us do our PPP funding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we had a lot of extra expenses, not to mention all the money we lost. We had a decrease in revenue. Okay. So when I look at my P&L, I still like to look at the real numbers. So numbers coming in and if we're profitable or not. Now, if we took the money that we were given from the government for PPP, also for employee retention credits. So the IRS was giving back they're super, super behind in this, but we finally did get some of our money back for keeping our employees. So there was something called the ERC, the employee retention credit. So basically what the government did was, instead of if you chose to keep employees on and keep paying them instead of letting them go where they collected unemployment, because the unemployment system was through the toilet, the government basically gave you a credit. All right. So if we look at that money, Pilates in the Grove was able to actually collect, I think it was something like $90,000. We've received about $40,000 of that back. We still have not received the other $45,000 or $50,000, if that's what it will ultimately be. But if we add that back into our revenue, if we add that back as in what we would call like additional income, all right, we go from a negative 16% margin up to a 22% margin. Okay. So at the time of this recording, if we take that money out again, if we take that extra $40,000 that we got back, that wasn't technically sales, it was from a retention credit, we finally had our first net positive time where we're at a 5% profit. Okay. So this is also like, when you look at numbers, people could be bringing in 7 figures of revenue and not be profitable. They might be, if you're bringing in $100,000 a month, but you're spending $120,000, you're in the hole $20,000. Right. So this is where I think it's important for contractors, instructors, employees to understand that even though the company might be bringing in a lot of money, they may not be keeping a whole lot of money, because especially in brick and mortar, it is really expensive to run brick and mortar right now, especially right now. There's a ton of inflation. Okay. Electricity is going up, gas is going up, products are going up, lumber is more expensive, and it has everything to do with like, you've heard the supply chain. And basically just because over the last 2 years, our country had to give out a shitload of money. And this is what happens in the back end. Okay. So as Pilates in the Grove, we are doing well from a standpoint that we were able to stay open during COVID. I mean, we were able to stay financially solvent. Everyone on the team was able to continue to get paid. We were able to move. We expanded one location. We downsized in another location. We did a build out. And we're finally coming back to being profitable, meaning that there is money left over in the accounts at the end of every month. And if we continue to go month over month, this is a really positive trend that we're seeing in our business. And we're hopefully, our goal from a profitability standpoint is to be at about a 10 to 12% profitability. So that would mean that if Pilates in the Grove brings in $1 million in revenue, that after all our expenses are paid out, right? That means all of our salaries, that we would have $100,000 to $120,000 left in the bank at the end of the year. Okay. So I hope that numbers are super, super complicated and people get really, really confused when they look at numbers, but we go through this scorecard with all of the businesses that are in our inner circle. We actually provide this scorecard for them, and we do a monthly call where everyone inputs their numbers and we go over like, what are these numbers telling us? So let's take that. Let me expand on that a little bit. So let's say our goal is to get 5 new clients in the door every week. All right. So let's say we're not getting 5 new clients in the door. We can go back and figure out, why are we not getting clients in the door? Usually that's a messaging problem. Okay. Like that, whatever your service is, it's not being articulated well to your ideal client and your ideal buyer. And so people are not coming into the door. That is a lead generation problem. Okay. So now say that we are getting 5 new people in the door, but our new client conversion rate is like 1% or something like that. That means you're getting a ton of people in the door, but they're not staying. So what is that problem? Okay. Well, it could be a couple things. It could be that maybe your marketing is wrong. Maybe your messaging is getting the wrong type of clients into your studio. Okay. So let me give you an example of that. We are a contemporary Pilates studio, but I would say we're more on the classical side. So if our messaging is getting in a bunch of people that are more into like high intensity fitness, or maybe things like the Legree method, which is like the mega formers, well, then our messaging is wrong. Those people will never be, I'm not trying to train those people and convince them to be lovers of Pilates in the Grove. What I'm trying to do is say that, hey, you'd probably be more happy at this other facility. Let me refer you there. And I have to go back to the drawing board and see why our messaging is attracting these kind of clients. Okay. That's number one. The other thing it could be is maybe once they come in, maybe your operations, maybe your service, maybe the first experience they had wasn't great. That's another reason. Or 2 or 3, maybe you have a poor sales system. All right. Marketing gets people in the door, sales closes the deal, seals the deal, right? So you have to have both, and you have to have a good product in order to make you get the sale and improve on your new client conversion rate. All right. So now let's look if our gross margin is really low. So let's say we have like a 40% gross margin. Most businesses will not be profitable if you're giving out 60% to cost of goods sold. So what do we have to look at with that? Well, we have to look at, are we not charging enough? We need to increase our prices. Okay. Are we paying out too much? Do we have to rethink what our pay structure is? All right. Or how can we maybe maximize our capacity and get more people into a group class or things of that nature? If our net margin is really low, like in the negatives, we have to look at things like, what are our other operational expenses? Where can we cut costs? Is our rent really high? That's usually something you can't cost unless you're going to move somewhere else. Do you have people on your team that are not, they're not being leveraged enough, right? So are you paying for, I don't know, are you paying for a social media person, but you're not really seeing a return on your investment and getting clients in from social media? Or are you, sometimes where this happens is we have a lot of these little ticky-tack kind of fees that are like $20 here, $40 here, $100 here for courses or memberships or subscriptions. If you can cut those down, sometimes you can improve your profits that way as well. Are you paying a ton in like payroll taxes or health benefits or things of that nature, or phone services or cell phones or gas? Those are all ways that you can look at your operational efficiencies and see if you can improve on those. That is why, again, I'm really, really, really adamant about people knowing their numbers. You cannot improve what you do not track. All right. It's the same thing in fitness and physical therapy. You can't improve someone's knee flexion if you're not measuring their knee flexion. Right. So you cannot improve someone's, strength if you're not measuring their strength. How do you know if they're getting stronger? Well, you usually know that if they start by being able to squat no weight and now they can squat 50 pounds, they're getting stronger, or they can do more repetitions. But you have to be measuring something in order to be able to improve it. Now, I really hope that I know it's kind of confusing just to listen to it instead of being able to see it. Maybe I'll do a video that you can see online one time. If that's something that you'd be interested in, I'd love for you to DM me on Instagram or shoot me an email, Krista@pilatesinthegrove.com, and let me know if you're interested in seeing a video tutorial of this. The other thing I would encourage you to do is, at the time of this recording, I believe we've just finished the applications into the inner circle. But if this is something you love to be able to know for your business, whether you're doing low six figures or high six figures, I think sometimes businesses that are doing a lot in revenue tend to think that they're always going to be profitable. And that's not true. Like if you just look at our numbers, we do over 7 figures a year, but if we're spending more than that, we're not profitable. And I don't know about you, but I don't work my ass off to not be profitable. So if you're interested, I would love, if you think that you are ready for this kind of analysis on your business, apply to be a member of the Inner Circle. It's for female boutique fitness studio owners and female boutique physical therapy practice owners that are ready to really get this high touch analytics so that you can set your business up for success, sustainability, and profitability. So if this sounds like something that's interesting to you, registration, I believe, I'm not sure if it's by the time this comes out, if it's going to be open or closed, but you can DM me on Instagram, you can email me, or you can visit our website, kristagurka.com, go to the Work With Me page and look up Inner Circle Mentorship. Okay, so I guess that's it. I would love to hear what you thought about this. If you had any questions, if you think this would be valuable for someone else, I would really love it if you shared it with someone. And if also you took even 30 seconds to scroll down wherever you're listening to this podcast and leave me a review. I would love to get this podcast out into as many female business owners as possible so that we help as many women as possible, right? The more you know, the more you can make educated decisions, and the more you can have better impact on your communities and help more people yourselves. All right. So that's all I got for you today, friends. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day whenever you are listening to this. And until next time, bye for now, y'all.